Okay, good morning.
Good morning.
All right, we're going to call this meeting to order. So thank you. It's nice to see so many here today. In the summer, I'm never sure what we're going to end up with in terms of a turnout. All right, so with that in mind then, let's get rolling. So I need a mover and a seconder for the approval of the agenda, please. Anne and Jen? Okay, thank you. And all in favor? Wonderful. All right, so now we're on to confirmation of the minutes. Again, I need a mover and a seconder. Okay, Daniel and Jen again. And all in favor? Wonderful, that passes. Any disclosures of pecuniary interest? Okay, seeing none. We have no delegations, no briefings, so we're right into our business, and we have a pre-consultation for 9 George Street. So could I please have staff introduce the report? Thank you.
Through you, Madam Chair. Thanks for joining us, everybody. I know it's summer and a lot of stuff's going on. So 9 George Street, the applicant is seeking feedback to inform their future proposal, which includes a second floor addition, new deck/porches, new windows, siding, and roofing, and new openings/entrances. Further details on the proposal are included in the report number HP-24-032, and I will leave it to the applicant and their agent to provide further detail on the proposal. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So I'm going to go to the committee for questions. Okay, Peter, go ahead.
This is a difficult one because as we talked about at the round table, the plan goes against some of the Heritage Conservation District guidelines. And this is the third time in about a year now that I've been asked to vote against the Heritage Conservation District guidelines. And I don't think that that is the job of members of this committee. I think we should be following those guidelines. But I have difficulty in knowing how to get around guidelines which have become outdated. You may remember we voted in favor, or I can't remember whether we voted in favor, we had a request for solar panels, which went considerably against the Heritage Conservation District guidelines. And Council, in its wisdom, approved, because I think it has the power, since its new policy is to promote solar panels. However, in this case, there are a number of problems which came up, and I'm wondering how we can, when this comes up as a full motion, how we can get around breaking or recommending the breaking of Heritage Conservation District guidelines. And Alan isn't here, so I haven't been able to give him a pre-warning, but I wonder if somehow, I know that we can't go into the plan itself, because as Philip said, that means opening the whole plan. But I wonder if it's possible to have something like a notwithstanding clause when this finally comes here, saying, notwithstanding what the Heritage Conservation District guidelines recommend in the case of 9 George Street, or in the specific case of 9 George Street, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that's a question which I'm not looking for an answer now, but I hope it will be considered. And when this does come for final discussion by this group, we've got an answer to it. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Peter. I know you're not looking for an answer right now. Does staff have any sort of comment, or do you want to come back and answer that at a later time? I think that's a no. We're going to wait on an answer for that. Okay, so I think we need a deeper conversation. Are there any other questions from the committee regarding this? Okay, so I'm going to see if there's any questions from the public. Okay, go ahead, Don.
Don Taylor. Well, I was at the round table, and I think there's a very good discussion there, and I think generally very favorable to the application, notwithstanding some questions of guidelines. I just like clarification on one point that came up. I think the applicants wish to raise the house slightly, and that's reasonable, but I'm worried that raising it too much may change the sort of villagey appearance, so that it should, if it's going to be raised, it shouldn't be very much. And if it is raised, I don't think we want to see a row of concrete blocks at the top of the foundation. I think we must ensure that any visible foundation is limestone. So perhaps the applicants might just, if they wish, they could comment on that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Don. So any comments from staff or the applicant on that, if the applicant's present? Just come on forward to one of the microphones. Just state your name first.
I'm Michaela Hughes. I'm the architect, and I'm working with George, who's the owner. I mean, I don't know if I need to present more than we've explained in the letter and the application, but I'm open to questions. We have been progressing towards the HIS, and Andrea Gummo has done some research, which I know was shared, and I don't know if everyone's read it, but like through the process, we've been talking about various different ideas and also exploring what the original house may have been. It's unusual in its interior layout, but looking at what the existing location of the stair, that it probably did not have the main entrance on George. It was probably around the side on Wellington. Just based on what the interior layout is now, it's an extremely utilitarian house, very simple, and at the back corner of the village, and yet now it has become a very prominent house because of the changes to the highway and it being the entrance to the village when you're arriving by car, which of course was not how people arrived at the time that it was built. But the changes that have been made are all so far appear to be changes that were made due to technological changes. So when electrical lighting and interior plumbing and forced air furnaces came into being, or when insulation was added, the house has recently discovered through Andrea's research, it has a layer of styrofoam and vinyl siding on the outside. So it's completely enclosed in plastic, which would have been done in the 80s, and I presume it had to have heritage approval.
So I'm going to sort of just stop you there, because I think, yeah, you're new to the meeting format, but Don over here had a question, and so he's just seeking an answer to that particular question. So that's fine, and thank you for the other information. It's always useful to have, but just to keep our meeting flowing. Do you have any comments on the question, and do you need him to restate it? So
the question was about raising the house, and yes. Having worked with George on several projects, George's attention to detail and the quality of the work that he has done on other projects, and the fact that he actually, this is not included, but he wants to restore a stone retaining wall along the property line, that having stone at the bottom of the siding would be the appropriate way, and is something that could be certainly done easily and readily with this project. But we're not intending to raise it much. We're just intending to raise it sufficiently that we can have wood siding, and the wood siding be the 8 inches it needs to be above grade, that the frame of the house will be above grade as well, so that it's not going to rot. And it's also in response to the grade itself has probably raised over the time that the house was built. When the bypass was added, there would have had to have been changes when that was done.
Okay, thank you. I think that answers the question. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. So, okay, are there any other members of the public? Okay, just double checking. Oh, sorry, Councillor Oosterhoff has his hand raised. So go ahead, Gary. Gary, can't hear. There we
Good
go.
morning, thank you, Madam Chair. Just a quick question or comment, I guess. I really think this will be a complementary addition to the area. Looks like a really well thought out. And the question I had was related to the table, which I wasn't part of course. And I'm just wondering, was there anything specific that besides, I think it's an excellent idea to show some limestone and maintain that integrity of the heritage. So those are really good suggestions. And were there any others? And it's important to pass them on. I think we have an owner and an architect, obviously, that we're going to work closely. So we should see really great success here and a beautiful addition to Fairfield.
Okay, thank you. So was there a specific question there, Councillor Oosterhoff?
I'm not sure. We're just related to the roundtable. Were there any other, I didn't hear it, was there anything specific the committee could know that the roundtable discussed and appreciated about this that we can hear about from the roundtable?
Okay, thank you. I appreciate the clarity there. So staff, anything specific from the roundtable that you'd like to share?
Through you, Madam Chair, my apologies for the button there. So to answer the Councillor Oosterhoff's question, is that the main thing that we wanted to flag is that there was a general appreciation for the design, that it was well thought out by most of the attendees, but there was also the consideration that the plan is in conflict with a number of the proposed alterations, which is what Mr. Gower flagged earlier, and that these need to be considered through a heritage impact statement. And that feedback's been provided in this report as well, and it was reiterated in the roundtable. But this is also why the applicant's agent, Michaela, is providing a history of the property, because one of the parts of the Heritage Conservation District plan is that if you can provide evidence, physical, documentary, however, or whatever, that you have a lot more flexibility of reinstating what was there once before. And so that might be providing a potential to support items that on their first appearance might conflict with the plan, provided the history of the property is more developed. And this could include taking out parts of the siding of the wall when work begins, to just doing general research on the property and everything in between. The only other thing I want to mention is that it's a very visible part of the district when you come in. It's the entryway. And to Michaela's point, though, the plan doesn't seem to speak to the change of orientation of the district when the highway was repositioned through the village of Berryfield. So when you consider that the current entrance of the district off the highway is this building, this is the only building you really see in full view when you're coming in for about, I'd say, like 20 to 30 meters. Now, you can consider that the nearby subdivision next door might change how that looks in the near future. And there could also be other changes in the district that are occurring as well that could have an impact on this in the future. But the main thing is that some of the changes that are being described change the facade of the building and where it's appreciated in terms of if it's going to be on George Street versus Wellington Street. So those are some of the bigger things we kind of discussed in the roundtable meeting discussion. I'm not able to really provide any comment on it this time because I haven't reviewed the heritage impact statement that's forthcoming, as well as done a full review because we are still just at the pre-consultation stage. But I did want to flag those concerns as those are some of the bigger talking points that came up in the roundtable discussion about a month ago. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you for that. All right, so I'm looking forward to seeing the rest of this as we progress. So at this point, though, we're going on to the rest of our agenda. So there are no policy development and implementation issues. There are no Stream 2 permits. We're on to Stream 3 permits, which is approval through council. So this is the one for 292 Johnson Street. So if I could have staff introduce this, please.
Through you, Madam Chair. 292 Johnson Street is located on the corner of Johnson and Berry Street, across the street from L'École Cathedral. The property consists of one half of a 2.5-story double house with a mansard roof on an irregular lot that includes a 1.5-story drive shed in the rear yard that is rapidly deteriorating. The applicant is seeking approval to demolish a 1.5-story rear yard drive shed that abuts a municipal laneway. Currently, the proposal does not include a new building in its place. That will have to be reviewed under a separate application in the future. Full details can be found in the report HP-24-033. And I just wanted to flag a couple notable conditions for the committee's consideration. In response to committee feedback, we are recommending that the owner consider repurposing, donating, or salvaging the garage door hardware, and that, quote, prior to demolition, the applicant shall provide photographs of the interior of the garage as well as measure the exterior footprint, dimensions, and roof pitch, and provide these photos and details to heritage planning staff for record purposes. I'd be happy to address any questions or concerns related to this proposal. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So I'm going to go to the committee for any questions. Okay, and I don't see any. So I'm going to the public for questions. All right, and I'm not seeing any. So I need a mover and a seconder for the recommendation to recommend this to council with the conditions attached. So Alex? Okay, and Peter? And all in favor? All right, thank you very much. All right, so we're on to our next piece of business, which is the application for Heritage Act approval for 11 Wellington Street. So if staff could please introduce this.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This property is the former site of the J. Horton Public School. It was closed in 2012 and demolished in 2016 to make way for a new residential development. The current owners received approval for zoning amendment and draft plan of subdivision in June of last year for a 31-lot residential subdivision centered around a central park and accessed by 2 new public roads. The development is currently nearing completion of a final plan of subdivision approvals, and this is the first application for a new dwelling in the subdivision. It's an application under Section 42, which is Part 5 of the Heritage Act. The applicant is asking for approval to construct a new 2-story dwelling and a detached single-story garage. The new dwelling will have a side gable roof with central pediment over a covered porch and central entranceway. The building will be clad in a dark gray asphalt shingle roofing and light gray hardy board siding, laid horizontally. The windows, soffits, fascia, and front porch are to be in a white tone. The single detached garage is a single story with cladding and colors to match the dwelling, with a medium pitched gable roof and accessed by a 3-meter driveway on the north side of the dwelling. Also included in this application is a request to approve the proposed road and sidewalk network of the subdivision. They are to be named Old Kiln Crescent and Scholars Lane. The proposed road allowances were specifically designed to reflect the rural atmosphere of the district, with reduced asphalt widths of 7 meters and sidewalks close to the street and only on one side. So in terms of our analysis, This application is the first of many applications associated with the new subdivision that this committee will be seeing. The intent of these applications is to review the finer grained details of each new structure to ensure the overall integrity of the district and its heritage attributes are conserved. The Village of Berryfield Heritage District plan requires that new construction be compatible with the heritage value and attributes of the district. However, it should not attempt to replicate historical styles, but instead be a contemporary interpretation of historic forms and styles. The dwelling and garage have been designed in a manner which satisfies the objectives of the district plan and respects the character of existing heritage buildings in the immediate area. The new road network has been oriented to ensure continuous views of St. Mark's Tower while creating an intimate village feel that complements the character of the district. Heritage planning staff support the proposal as it aligns with the goals and objectives of the district plan and upholds the heritage conservation objectives of the official plan. We circulated this to our usual agents. A building permit, of course, is going to be required for this, as well as comments from both planning and engineering, noting that there are various other technical approvals that are yet to be fulfilled and are being addressed currently. One thing of note is that the garage is noted to be slightly too close to the rear swale as part of the draining plan for the subdivision, and will need to be slightly shifted to ensure that there is 0.4 meters away from that rear swale. So it shouldn't affect the overall appearance from our perspective. This was circulated to this committee. We received 2 written comments from members. No substantial concerns were expressed. Those comments were provided to the applicants for consideration. Just a quick housekeeping note for this application. There was a recent change to the Heritage Act that changed the consultation requirements in heritage districts. So not only are heritage committees required to be consulted for demolitions in districts, but also for the erection of new buildings. So the proposed motion before you today should read a recommendation to council as opposed to support of council motion. So with that, Madam Chair, we as staff support the approval of this application with the conditions in the report. Thanks.
Okay, thank you for that. So I'm going to go to the committee for questions. Go ahead, Peter.
Yeah, question to Ryan. I presume from what we have here that this is one of the standard plans that has been, and has it been altered in any way at all? And the question really is, if we approve this now, are we approving all of the, whatever this one is called?
Go ahead.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair. To be quite honest, I'm not explicitly familiar with the templates and the models that they provide. I understand through the applicants that there are various options associated with each model. Our intention with this application is a one-off approval for this particular set of plans that are before you. We are not approving the entire subdivision and houses in the subdivision. It is our hope, actually, that we'll get a variety of types of houses in this district so that it keeps that rural feel of Berryfield, where you have varieties of size and scale and orientation of houses, but still meet the traditional profiles and characteristics of the district. So no, this is specifically for this lot 4, I believe it is, in the district plan. So, thanks.
Okay, any other questions? Oh, sorry, the applicant wishes to speak. Go ahead, Mr. Bork.
Hi. Just want to provide a bit more context and narrative to that question. So, yeah, as we understand it, each lot is going to have to go through, obviously, its own sort of approval process and heritage permit. Our intent is that we have, maybe a half dozen sort of floor plans available, and even within those floor plans, we have different front elevations. So the intent is that these designs will have sort of similar feel and look and meet the Heritage Conservation District plan. But there is some variety there such that, these houses will typically look different, but have that same sort of feel and meet all those necessary criteria. So, each property will need to go through its own heritage approval. So obviously this isn't just sort of a blanket approval of this type of build, but we should have a good variety of plans and separate elevations so we can get, a design of a subdivision that has that heritage feel. It's got enough diversity so that it looks sort of different, but it all sort of maintains that that sort of character of it.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other questions from committee? Okay, seeing none. Any questions from the public? Go ahead. You put your mic back on. There we go.
I have comments, but not questions. Should I go ahead now?
Yes, go ahead.
I think my perception of the plan is good. I think it is quite appropriate for the village and pretty well consistent with the plan. So I just had a couple of minor suggestions that the applicants and the owner might think about. There was a question of whether those front windows should be double windows or single windows, and certainly a single windows would be more in character with traditional houses of that period. However, modern owners like to have more windows, and I think on the whole, it's probably better to have a double window than a large window, which would probably lose the vertical perspective or proportions that would be normal. So that's one point. I think the double windows are okay, although the plan shows 6/6, which I think is maybe maybe inappropriate in a sense that it attempts to give a mid-18th, mid-19th century style of window, which isn't really appropriate. So I would recommend or suggest just 1/1, maybe 2/2 instead of 6/6. My other comment refers to the siding. I think if I remember correctly, it mentioned that the siding would be hardy board with sort of a wood grain finish. I don't object to the hardy board, but I think it's really not appropriate to have a kind of fake wood grain appearance. That kind of appearance is not an historic kind of cladding. The cladding at that period would normally, for a house of this nature, would be smooth, and so I would suggest that they have a smooth finish to the cladding rather than fake grain. Thank you.
Thank you, Don. Do staff or the applicant want to address those comments or just leave them as a takeaway?
Madam Chair, the only thing I would note is that in the conditions that are before you today, there are some options for the window and for staff to review the cladding once it's been finalized. So we will have another attempt or another chance to check those against the public's comments. So for sure, thanks.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, so with that, I'm going to ask for a mover and a seconder for the recommendation so that the Kingston Heritage Property Committee recommends to council, and I won't read all through it, but the new construction at 411 Wellington with the conditions that are in front of you. So a mover and a seconder. Okay, Councillor Oosterhoff, Alex. All right, and any other comments about this from anyone? I'm just going to quickly say that I'm really glad to see this moving forward, and it's nice to see another form of housing within our city and in a heritage conservation district. So thank you, and I'm looking forward to seeing all the other applications as they progress. Okay, so with that, I'll call the vote then. All in favor? And that carries. Thank you very much. Okay, so again, we're fairly quick. No working groups. We do have some permit approvals. Are there any questions on the permit approvals? Okay, seeing none. There are no motions, no notices of motions, no other business? Nope. Okay. We had correspondence that came to us in an addendum, so I'm just going to note that. And the date of our next meeting is August 21st at 9:30 a.m. And I need a mover and a seconder to adjourn, please. And Daniel? Okay, and Anne. All right, and we're adjourned. Thank you very much again to everyone.